Hello, it's Thursday, September 28th. I am here live to talk about, as you can see below, what is the sales pipeline? Who needs one? And how do you create one? And I'm here to talk about that today because I find that a lot of people who go into business really focus on referrals and marketing. And when they think about selling, it becomes something that is a little bit more unfamiliar. I think a lot of us know what marketing is because we get marketed to a lot of times. And I think a lot of us know what referrals are because we start our businesses that way. And marketing is really essential and referrals are awesome. But pipeline is something that really puts you a little bit more in control of your revenue and what your business is going to look like in, let's say, 3, 6, 9 months. Okay. So let's first just remind ourselves that there have been so many times when we suddenly find ourselves without any clients, right? We wake up one day, we finish maybe a big client project, and all of a sudden we're looking down the line and saying, oh my gosh, I don't have any clients coming in the door. I don't have any revenue. And what's interesting about that moment, which we've all been there, is that it's kind of two components. On one hand, the one component, one part of it is this idea that you don't have any revenue coming in, right? And then the other component is the surprise we feel, right? The sudden surprise, the unexpected moment of panic often about why and how this came to be that we're put ourselves in a position where we don't have clients. And the next thing we do is, oh my gosh, we have to scramble, we have to figure out how to get clients. Okay. So it's interesting. The reason that we often are in that situation is what I alluded to before, right? We tend to rely on referrals, which means people talk to other people about our work and they, which is great. It comes with a tremendous amount of trust and that's amazing, but we don't know when the referrals are going to come. We also rely on inbound inquiries, right? And if you're doing marketing regularly, you're going to get a certain amount of inbound, but sometimes we aren't doing it in a way that's getting us those leads, getting us those inquiries. And so we've got inbound and we've got referrals, and those aren't bringing us the consistency and the that we want in terms of the clients that we're getting. Okay. So basically, what a pipeline is it's a dashboard that says these are the opportunities that are coming your way. Okay. So let's start with question number one. What is a sales pipeline? A sales pipeline, think of it as a list to a party that you're hosting, right? Let's say you're having a birthday party and you have 12 seats at the table. All right, what are you going to do? You're going to make a list of the people that you want to invite, right? And when you make that list of people that you want to invite, right, they're going to respond and they're going to say, I can definitely make it. I can't make it. I might make it. Have to wait for so and so to get back to me to find out if their schedule allows me to come, right? And essentially, you're basically creating a list of people who are in your world with specific criteria about whether they're going to be able to join your party, right? And pipeline is no different. A pipeline is basically a list of people with a certain amount of information. And that information is going to say how close they are to coming to your party, or in other words, becoming a client. Okay. And typically, when you have a list of people, like if I said today, okay, can you give me a list of 20 people that you think might be becoming clients? What you're going to do essentially is you're going to rank them. You're going to say, okay, I'm have a sales call with this person next week, right? This person watched my webinar. This person I've been in conversations with in the DMs, right? And you're essentially setting stages in your pipeline to identify how close people are to becoming a client. Just like the party list, right? You're going to have yeses, you're going to have no's, and you're going to have maybes built on certain contingencies. Okay. So it is absolutely critical in your business if you want to move beyond referrals and you want to move beyond inbound opportunities to create a pipeline. It's just a list. And think about it this way is if I said, okay, great, 20 people who might become clients, write that down and rank them in terms of the likelihood that they'll become clients, which is going to be based on certain criteria, of course. You can't add referrals in there. because you don't know when referrals are going to come in. And you can't add inbound opportunities, people who just suddenly reach out and said, I've been following you and I want to talk about working with you. You can't put them on your list either, right? You can't, because you don't know where they're coming from, when they're coming, and all of that. Okay. So pipeline is really identifiable people who you know of that you believe are potential clients. Okay. So that's what a pipeline is. It's just a list to your party, so to speak, or really to become your client. So who needs one? Well, I would just say anyone who doesn't want to rely on inbound referrals or inbound marketing inquiries. This idea is that as you grow your business, you're going to want to be in greater control over finding those opportunities and cultivating them. Imagine that list that you have. You're really going to, what that also does is it allows you to lead the process with those people towards a potential sale or them becoming your client. It gives you a way to prioritize your efforts in terms of the people that you want to have conversations with. Okay. Again, anybody who's a referral or an inbound inquiry, it can't be on your list, at least not until they reach out to you, because you don't know when those are going to come in. So if you want to know not only what your revenue might be, what your client capacity might be, especially if you have like a team or you have, independent contractors where you need that capacity to serve those clients, a pipeline is really, really important. What I could say is that there's kind of two ways you can approach this idea of a pipeline. And the first one is really detailed individuals, especially if you're dealing with a high, a very targeted account list, for example. If there's very specific people you want to target to become clients, that individual pipeline list is going to be critical. And knowing that not only one person might be part of the discussion, so you want to make sure you have multiple people in each account, as we say. Okay. The other thing is if you have, for example, a very high price, but maybe lower volume, right? Like for example, with consultants, that is again when you'd want to have an individualized list of people. The second way you can manage a pipeline, and it's not specifically a pipeline, but it is well, I should say it's a pipeline of people in aggregate that come into your world and maybe opt into different webinar or join your newsletter or get on your email list, or are your connections. You can bring people into your world in aggregate as a whole body, if you will, and then target them with very specific, what I call one-to-many campaigns. Okay. So you're actually, whereas when you have individual people, you're trying to have very specific one-to-one conversations with everybody to move your deal forward, the potential of you working with somebody forward. The other way to do it is sort of a large group of people to whom you target through campaigns and say, okay, I've got all of these connections, and now I'm going to identify these specific type of people in these size companies that would be a good client for me, and I'm going to send them a campaign about some opportunity that will be very, 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 very highly relevant to them. Okay. So if you think about it, I just need to reiterate one more time. When you have inbound marketing, when you have referrals, you can't get people on your list. What a pipeline is really saying, okay, I'm going to create identifiable lists of people, whether that's a very large list that you're going to communicate with one to many, in a sort of like, I should say, and let me rephrase that. When you think about marketing, it's a one-to-many thing, right? Those posts on LinkedIn, for example. I guess what I meant to say is you could potentially have individualized conversations with a group of people, but not in a campaign way. So sort of like marketing messages, but maybe in the DMs, right? You're targeting a very specific group of people. When we post, it's social media is inefficient. We don't know if that targeted list of people is actually going to be seeing those posts, right? So what we really want to do here is want to decide, I should say, is if you might have a business where you want to have very specific names with very specific information, and you want to be able to move that conversation forward, that sales process forward, to see if they'll become a client. Or you can do it with a larger targeted group of people that you put into literally a list, and then kind of identify them in a sort of a more of a one-to-many sort of approach. The way that you're going to create a pipeline is as simple as creating an Excel sheet with different stages of where people are in your pipeline. Okay. You can do an Excel, you can do a Google Sheet, you can do a CRM, you can do a Kanban in any of, a million tools. It doesn't really matter. But the point is that you're actually back to that idea that I was talking about earlier on the surprise element of like, oh my gosh, like, wait a minute, how come I don't have any clients? We want to avoid both not having clients and that surprise element. And by having that pipeline is really starting with looking, creating the list and looking at it regularly on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and really saying, hey, where are we? Because to some extent, you just need to know where you stand, right? You just need to know where you stand. And when you know that you don't necessarily have opportunities coming up in the next quarter, it puts you in a position where you can start making decisions of figuring out, okay, what kind of targeted activities do I need to do to generate clients? But I think a lot of us folk, live in this world where we're just kind of doing our thing and we're waiting for those opportunities to come. And so if you want to have, a better tool to project not only revenue, but capacity, manage those relationships, build those relationships with intention, right? Then you want to have a pipeline. Okay. You want one if you're, don't want to rely on those referrals. You want to actually have your own list of people that could be potential clients. And I would say even at minimum, like an email list, right? Where you have a group of people where you think, okay, of those people, I'm going to target these very specific people, right? It's really not even, to some extent, you want to make sure that people who are already in your network are on your list, and then bring more people into that list. And then lastly, how do you create it? Excel, CRM, Kanban. And if you want to have a sample pipeline, send me a DM and I'll send you a sample of that. It's like super simple, but it'll really get you started. So send me a DM if you want to see a sample pipeline. I will send it to you. Okay. But again, a pipeline is just like a party list. It's who do you want to come to your party? Who do you want to become clients? Who do you think would be a good person at your birthday party? Who do you think would become a good client? And I want to take away the stigma of this word pipeline, and sometimes the sort of the intimidating factor that I think sometimes people feel, but it's just an incredibly, incredibly useful tool. And I think most people should have one. All right. So that's what I want to talk about today. You can always DM me any questions. And again, DM me if you want a sample pipeline. And I hope that was helpful. See you soon. Bye.